Hi Guy, tonight we delve into the hidden histories of ancient Japan. Whispered tales from the samurai period. You'll witness breathtaking displays of skill, but you probably won't survive the political intrigue. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sun, a molten orb sinking behind the distant mountains, painted the Kyoto skyline in hues of fiery orange and soft lavender. From atop the magnificent five-storied pagoda, the city unfolded like a meticulously crafted scroll, each house a brushstroke in the sprawling masterpiece. The air, still warm from the day's heat, crackled with a palpable energy, a mixture of anticipation and hushed reverence. Tonight, the Emperor himself would grace the exhibition, a spectacle of falconry unlike any other. This was no mere display of hunting prowess. Each falcon, a magnificent creature of feathered grace and deadly precision, was a symbol of power, its flight mirroring the soaring ambition of the court. The handlers, clad in rich silks embroidered with intricate crests, moved with practiced grace, their every gesture imbued with the weight of tradition. The imperial family, seated on ornate platforms draped in crimson brocade, observed with an intensity that spoke volumes. The emperor, a man whose every frown or smile could sway the fate of nations, watched with unnervingly calm eyes. His gaze, however, didn't seem to linger on the birds. His attention appeared to drift, subtly observing the interactions of his court. This world of breathtaking beauty and ancient traditions was also a breeding ground for the most dangerous games of power. A misplaced glance, a poorly chosen word, a seemingly insignificant stumble could shatter the delicate balance and lead to catastrophic consequences. Among the assembled nobles and dignitaries, almost invisible in the shadows cast by the towering pagoda, stood Kenji, a young goldsmith, his hands, calloused yet deft, were accustomed to the delicate dance of shaping precious metals. His eyes, however, were far more attuned to the subtle shifts in the currents of power swirling around him than to the gleam of gold. He was a master observer, his keen intellect cataloging every nuance of expression, every whispered word, every barely perceptible shift in posture. While others were mesmerized by the elegant sweep of the falcon's wings, Kenji was fascinated by the unspoken dialogue between the emperor and his courtiers, a silent war waged with subtle gestures and veiled threats. The first falcon, a majestic peregrine, was released. It arced through the twilight sky, a dark silhouette against the fiery sunset, its speed a blur of motion. A collective gasp rippled through the assembled crowd as it struck its prey with deadly accuracy. The emperor remained impassive, yet Kenji noticed the slight twitch of his hand as he adjusted the intricate jade clasp on his robe. A small movement, yet Kenji understood it to be a signal. As the exhibition continued, with each successive falcon displaying incredible skill and precision, Kenji's observations became more acute. He noticed the subtle tension between the emperor's two most favored advisors, Lord Ito, a man of quiet strength and unwavering loyalty, and Lord Tanaka, ambitious and ruthless, his eyes gleaming with a hunger for power. Their interactions, seemingly polite and deferential, were laced with undercurrents of rivalry, a silent battle for the emperor's favor. One particularly magnificent falcon, a gyrfalcon with plumage the color of freshly fallen snow, seemed to falter. It missed its target, veering wildly off course before regaining its composure. The crowd murmured, but Kenji's attention was not on the bird. He saw Lord Tanaka's lips curve into a barely perceptible smile, a flicker of expression so fleeting it could easily be dismissed as an accident. Yet, Kenji noticed, the falcon's misstep, he suspected, was no accident. A deliberate slight, perhaps, designed to subtly undermine Lord Ito's influence. The emperor remained silent, his gaze fixed on the recovering falcon, but Kenji saw the subtle tightening of his jaw, a barely contained flicker of displeasure. The unspoken message was clear. Even a small misstep could have significant consequences. And in the treacherous world of the imperial court, consequences could be lethal. The exhibition concluded with a final, spectacular display, a coordinated flight of several falcons, each bird a precise instrument of power in the skillful hands of its handler. The crowd erupted in applause, but the air remained thick with an unspoken tension. As the guests began to disperse, Kenji lingered, observing the slow, deliberate movements of the imperial family as they prepared to depart. He saw Lord Tanaka approach the emperor, exchanging a few carefully chosen words, his demeanor carefully crafted to appear respectful, yet beneath the surface, Kenji sensed a palpable undercurrent of ambition. The falcon shadow, it seemed, extended far beyond the rooftops of Kyoto, its deadly influence reaching into the very heart of the imperial court. And Kenji, the quiet goldsmith, found himself caught in the midst of it all. The air crackled with anticipation. A hush fell over the assembled dignitaries, the murmur of silk and hushed conversations dying to a barely audible whisper. Then he entered. The emperor, Lord Hiroki, our host, a man whose own lineage stretched back centuries, cleared his throat, his voice barely a tremor above the silence. His Imperial Majesty, he announced, the words imbued with a reverence that bordered on awe, arrives not merely as a ruler, but as the embodiment of our glorious nation's spirit. The emperor, a man of perhaps 50 years, but seeming younger due to the meticulous care taken with his appearance, walked with a measured grace. His robes, woven from the finest stick silk and shades of imperial gold and deep crimson, flowed behind him like a river of sunset. Each stitch, each embellishment spoke of generations of skilled artisans dedicated to their craft. A single, exquisitely crafted jade pendant, a family heirloom passed down through centuries of emperors, rested at his throat, catching the light with each deliberate movement. His face, though etched with lines that hinted at countless state affairs and weighty decisions, held an enigmatic calm. His eyes, however, were different. They held a depth, a wisdom, and a flicker of something unreadable, something that hinted at the immense weight of responsibility, or perhaps the calculated manipulation that rested upon his shoulders. Lord Hiroki continued, his voice gaining a slightly conspiratorial undertone. His Majesty's day begins before dawn, long before the sun paints the eastern sky. The rituals are extensive, a precise sequence of prayers, meditations, and ablutions, followed by a carefully curated breakfast, each dish representing a specific aspect of the empire's well-being. He then reviews state documents, each one meticulously scrutinized, before finally turning his attention to the affairs of the court. He paused, taking a sip of sake, his gaze lingering on the emperor who sat serenely on his elevated dais, accepting the silent homage with an almost imperceptible nod. But, Lord Hiroki added, lowering his voice further, there are eccentricities. Even an emperor has his peculiar habits. A ripple of barely suppressed amusement passed through the assembled guests. The revelation of an imperial quirk held a certain fascination. His Majesty, Lord Hiroki continued, a playful glint in his eye, possesses an almost obsessive fondness for a particular type of green tea, a rare variety sourced from the remote islands of the Azure Sea. They say the leaves are harvested only under a full moon, by monks trained in ancient techniques. This tea, they say, possesses a unique, almost ethereal quality, a delicate balance of sweetness and bitterness, said to sharpen the mind and soothe the soul. He consumes it every morning, at precisely the same time, from a specific, handcrafted porcelain cup passed down through his family for generations. He is said to be able to discern the slightest variation in its taste, capable of identifying the exact island, even the precise hillside where each leaf was plucked. The image painted by Lord Hiroki was vivid, a surprising detail revealing a softer side, a human element within the seemingly impenetrable fortress of imperial authority. The sheer expense and logistical complexity of obtaining this unique tea painted a picture of an emperor who, even within the seemingly rigid framework of his daily life, permitted himself certain indulgences, however unusual. The conversation shifted subtly, the initial awe morphing into a fascinating discussion regarding the emperor's true power. Was he, as many believed, the absolute ruler, the unquestioned head of state, whose word was law? Or was he, as some historians argued, a figurehead, a puppet subtly manipulated by the powerful clans and the intricacies of the court? The emperor's power, a learned scholar from the Imperial Academy ventured, his voice measured and considered, is a complex tapestry woven from threads of tradition, ritual, and the carefully cultivated image of absolute authority. However, the influence of the great clans, particularly the Fujiwara and the Tachibana, cannot be ignored. Their vast wealth, their strategic alliances, and their deep roots within the court system often grant them an outsized influence on imperial decisions. Another voice, that of a seasoned courtier, countered, Such pronouncements ignore the emperor's subtle yet undeniable control over patronage, appointments, and the flow of information. He may not always wield overt power, but his influence is far-reaching and remarkably effective. Consider the strategic alliances forged through arranged marriages, the subtle shifting of loyalties orchestrated through rewards and punishments. These aren't acts of a figurehead, but of a master strategist. The debate continued, the air thick with unspoken implications, carefully chosen words, and veiled allusions to court intrigue. The very air seemed to hum with the unspoken power struggles that played out in the shadows, even as the emperor himself remained a silent, enigmatic observer, sipping his rare tea, a small, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. His gaze, however, never left the gathering. It was a gaze that seemed to penetrate the superficialities of courtly niceties, a silent acknowledgment of the inherent complexities, the delicate balance of power that shaped his reign. And in the quiet contemplation of his gaze, the true extent of his power, real or perceived, remained a matter of intense and ultimately irresolvable debate. The wind whipped at the edges of Elias's hooded cloak, the rough-spun wool a stark contrast to the meticulously crafted leather jerkin beneath. His weathered hands, gnarled and strong from years of handling birds of prey, adjusted the jesses. The leather straps attached his peregrine falcon's legs with practiced ease. Beside him, Anya, her face partially obscured by a similarly styled hood, checked the falcon's hood, its soft leather meticulously stitched and adorned with subtle embroidery depicting a hunting scene. Their attire, functional yet elegant, spoke volumes about their station, masters of the sky, respected members of a unique and ancient craft. Their clothing wasn't merely practical, it was a uniform, a visual testament to their dedication. The deep greens and browns of their jerkins blended seamlessly with the landscape, providing effective camouflage during hunts. The leather, supple yet durable, protected them from the elements and the occasional errant claw. Their boots, sturdy and reinforced with thick soles, offered sure-footedness on uneven terrain. But it was the small details that truly set them apart. The meticulously polished metal of their bewhitening, small, curved knives used to detach birds from prey, the gleam of their carefully sharpened hunting knives sheathed at their hips, the perfectly weighted lures crafted from feathers and leather dangling from their belts. These tools weren't simply instruments. They were extensions of their bodies, imbued with the knowledge and experience of generations. Training a peregrine falcon was a demanding task, a protracted process demanding patience, precision, and an almost uncanny understanding of the bird's nature. It started with imprinting, a crucial stage where the falconer bonds with the young bird, essentially becoming its parent figure. This involved meticulous hand-feeding, ensuring that the falcon associates the human hand with sustenance and safety. This bond, far from a simple transactional relationship, was the cornerstone of successful falconry. Then came the process of creance training, where the bird is gradually accustomed to flying on a long tether. The falconer would gently guide the bird, rewarding it with food and praise for its responsiveness. Each step, from teaching the bird to return to the fist to mastering the recall, required an intimate understanding of the falcon's temperament, its strengths, and its weaknesses. The falconer learned to read the subtlest shifts in the bird's posture, the slightest change in its gaze, interpreting them as expressions of hunger, fear, or excitement. Their methods extended beyond simple training techniques. They understood the subtle language of the birds, the nuances of their calls, the positioning of their heads, the flick of a wing. They incorporated knowledge of meteorology, geography, and the habits of their prey into their practice. Falconry was less a science and more an art, a delicate dance between human understanding and avian instinct. The bewhitening, a small but crucial tool, was used with surgical precision. It needed the lightest of touches to release a bird from its prey, a testament to the falconer's finesse. Their skill wasn't just about controlling the bird, it was about nurturing a connection so profound that it transcended the boundaries between species. A forgotten historical anecdote speaks to this extraordinary relationship. In the court of Frederick II, Holy Roman Emperor, a peregrine falcon named Imperator was reportedly given a luxurious retirement after years of service. Chronicles describe the bird enjoying a special diet, a custom-built perch, and even a personal attendant. The emperor, a passionate falconer himself, saw in this majestic creature not just a hunting partner, but a cherished companion. This anecdote, though seemingly anecdotal, highlights the deeper emotional connection that often existed between falconers and their birds, a bond far exceeding the typical human-animal relationship. The courtly world embraced falconry not merely as a sport, but as a highly stylized art form. Falconry exhibitions, held in vast open fields, or within the confines of royal estates, were far more than demonstrations of skill. They were elaborate, meticulously choreographed performances, showcasing the falconer's mastery and the bird's prowess. These exhibitions weren't just about hunting. They were powerful symbols of power, status, and courtly refinement. The choice of bird, the elegance of the attire, even the gestures of the falconer were all imbued with symbolic meaning, conveying messages of prowess, loyalty, and even political alliances. A well-executed flight, a perfectly timed capture, would be greeted with gasps of admiration from the assembled nobles. The birds, adorned with bells that chimed musically as they soared through the air, became living embodiments of grace and power. These displays were opportunities for the falconers to demonstrate not only their exceptional skills, but their understanding of the symbolic language of courtly life. The choreography of the hunts mirrored the intricate dance of political maneuvering, each precise movement carefully calculated to convey a specific message to the court. The success of a falconer in the court was measured not only by their hunting prowess, but also by their ability to weave these performances into the fabric of courtly life, adding to the intricate tapestry of power dynamics and social signaling. The falconer's expertise was thus a blend of practical skill and subtle diplomacy. They were masters of the sky, yes, but also masters of courtly etiquette and political nuance, their every action contributing to the complex web of relationships that defined the royal court. The falcon itself became a symbol of this intricate game, reflecting the power and prestige of its owner and the skill of its handler. It was more than a bird. It was a living testament to the artistry of falconry and a crucial player in the grand theater of the court. The air in the workshop hung thick with the scent of beeswax and heated gold. Sunlight, filtered through the oiled paper windows, illuminated dust motes dancing in the shafts of light that pierced the dimly lit space. This was the domain of Kenji, the goldsmith, a man whose life revolved around the meticulous shaping of precious metal. His workshop, nestled within a quiet corner of Kyoto, was a testament to his dedication. Each tool, from the delicate chasing hammers to the sturdy tongs, held a place of honor, meticulously arranged on shelves of polished wood. Small, precisely carved wooden boxes contained an array of finely ground pigments, used to create intricate patinas that deepened the gold's luminosity. The walls themselves bore witness to his years of practice. Sketches of swirling chrysanthemums and majestic cranes, meticulously rendered, hinting at the beauty he conjured from the inert metal. Kenji's work was not simply the creation of opulent jewelry or ceremonial objects. It was a conversation with the material, a dance of hammer and fire, culminating in pieces that breathed with a life of their own. He worked slowly, deliberately, each strike of his hammer a carefully considered act. His designs were inspired by the natural world. The delicate veins of a maple leaf translated into the filigree of a pendant, the sinuous grace of a river captured in the flowing lines of a ceremonial dagger. He held a deep reverence for his craft, seeing it as a sacred duty to translate the ephemeral beauty of nature into enduring works of art. The value of his work extended beyond its monetary worth. Each piece represented a culmination of skill, patience, and artistic vision, making it a treasured heirloom passed down through generations. The gold itself, a symbol of purity and prosperity in Japanese culture, was further elevated by Kenji's artistry, imbued with an almost spiritual significance. One distinctive aspect of Kenji's craft lay in his unconventional use of materials. While most goldsmiths of his time adhered strictly to the purity of gold and precious stones, Kenji incorporated elements from the natural world into his work. He would painstakingly collect fallen leaves, preserving their delicate forms by meticulously coating them in a thin layer of gold, then delicately incorporating them into the design. These leaf inclusions, often almost invisible unless examined closely, gave his pieces a unique texture and depth, adding a subtle layer of organic beauty. The veins of the leaves, preserved in gold, seemed to pulse with a life of their own, creating a surprising juxtaposition between the permanence of the metal and the fleeting nature of the leaf. This unique approach, inspired by the ephemeral beauty of autumn leaves and ancient folk traditions emphasizing the interconnectedness of all things, set his creations apart. His pieces were not simply adorned with natural elements. they were infused with a deeper meaning, echoing nature's inherent transience and beauty. Kenji was a man of few words, his personality as meticulously crafted as his artwork. He possessed a quiet intensity, his gaze often far away, seemingly lost in contemplation of his next design. His workshop was his sanctuary, a place where he could retreat from the bustling life of Kyoto and immerse himself in the silent dialogue with his materials. While outwardly reserved, his work spoke volumes about his passion, dedication, and understanding of the subtle nuances of Japanese aesthetics. He understood the deeper connections between craftsmanship, nature, and the spiritual life of his people. This understanding fueled his dedication and creativity, giving his work a richness that resonated far beyond mere decoration. However, the true nature of Kenji's creations, and indeed those of his contemporaries, remains a subject of ongoing scholarly debate. Historians tirelessly examine these decorative arts, seeking to unravel their underlying purpose. Was their beauty purely superficial, a testament to the skilled hands that shaped them? Or did these intricate designs, these seemingly innocuous embellishments, serve as a sophisticated form of communication amongst the elite? Did the subtle variations in motif, the specific choice of materials, and the seemingly arbitrary arrangement of elements hold a deeper meaning, a silent dialogue only understood by those privy to the cultural codes and societal intricacies of ancient Japan? The question remains unanswered. The exquisite craftsmanship, undeniable beauty, and the evident skill invested in the pieces are beyond doubt. However, the subtle nuances, the subtle variations, and the often cryptic symbolism within them leave historians continually questioning their true purpose and meaning. Some scholars suggest that specific floral arrangements, or the particular orientation of a bird in flight, might represent secret messages, allegories, or coded communication within the court. Other researchers focus on the use of materials, suggesting that specific stones or metals might denote social status or carry significant ritualistic connotations. The debate continues, fueled by the tantalizing possibility that behind the undeniable beauty of these ancient artifacts lies a complex layer of hidden meaning, a secret language whispered through the ages. Kenji's leaves, preserved in gold, might be more than just an artistic flourish. They could be clues, remnants of a hidden conversation carried on through the centuries, silently challenging historians to decipher the true meaning of his exquisite craft. The air in the imperial palace hung thick with the scent of plum blossoms and unspoken ambition. Sunlight, filtered through paper screens, illuminated the intricate gold leaf detailing on the walls, a stark contrast to the shadows lurking in the corners, where whispers of power and betrayal danced on the edges of polite conversation. The imperial court was a glittering cage, its inhabitants bound by rigid etiquette and the ever-present threat of shifting alliances. Powerful daimyo, their faces impassive masks behind silken robes, maneuvered with the grace of seasoned hunters, their every move calculated to enhance their influence. Their retainers, clad in sober colors, shadowed their lords, their eyes sharp, assessing the ebb and flow of power. Lady Kasuga, a court lady-in-waiting with eyes as dark and deep as a moonless night, moved through the throng with an almost supernatural stillness. Her beauty, though striking, was overshadowed by her sharp intellect and uncanny ability to read the currents of courtly politics. She was a silent observer, a spider at the heart of the web, her observations more valuable than any overt action. She served the empress, but her allegiances were fluid, shifting subtly with the changing winds of fortune. Her rival, Lady Akari, from the prestigious Fujiwara clan, possessed a beauty that was both dazzling and intimidating, her laughter a weapon as sharp as any sword. The rivalry between the two women, though unspoken, infused the court with a palpable tension. Their factions, composed of loyal retainers and strategically placed allies amongst the daimyo, clashed subtly in every social gathering, every meticulously choreographed ceremony. Each carefully chosen word, each seemingly insignificant gift, represented a strategic move in the ongoing battle for influence. The court was a complex tapestry woven from threads of loyalty, ambition, and fear. The emperor, a young man barely out of his teens, was a figurehead, his authority often challenged by the competing ambitions of the daimyo. He existed in a gilded cage, his freedom limited by the intricate web of courtly life. While he held the ultimate power in theory, the actual control of the imperial court was far more nuanced, a subject of considerable debate among scholars. To what extent did the emperor truly wield influence? Or was he merely a pawn in a larger game orchestrated by the powerful daimyo? This is a question which continues to provoke heated scholarly debate, with some arguing that he maintained a degree of subtle control through strategic alliances and manipulation of courtly protocol, while others maintain that the emperor's power was entirely illusory, a facade behind which the daimyo wielded true authority. One particularly scandalous event, though largely hushed up, provided a glimpse into the raw power dynamics at play. It involved Lord Masamune, a daimyo known for his ruthlessness and ambition, and Lady Ayame, a lady-in-waiting of unparalleled beauty and intelligence. Their affair, whispered about in hushed tones behind silken screens, was not merely a romantic entanglement, but a calculated political maneuver. Lord Masamune, seeking to consolidate his power, used his relationship with Lady Ayame, who had access to crucial information through her position, to gain an advantage over his rivals. He would send her coded messages disguised as love letters, delivered by trusted messengers, containing details of his opponent's plans and weaknesses. Lady Ayame, however, possessed her own ambition. While she provided Masamune with crucial information, she secretly leaked his plans to her own clandestine network, allowing her to carefully manipulate events from the shadows. She played both sides with deadly precision, using her charm to gain access to privileged information while carefully feeding misleading intelligence to her rivals, keeping the balance of power precarious and always in her favor. The affair ended abruptly, shrouded in rumors of betrayal and poisoned sake, leaving behind a residue of suspicion and a chilling reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition within the court. The details of their downfall remain fragmented and contradictory, leaving historians to speculate and debate the true nature of their relationship and its ultimate consequences. The court continued its intricate dance, a seemingly endless cycle of ceremonies, alliances, and betrayals. The emperor, watched constantly by the watchful eyes of the daimyo and their retainers, remained at the center of the game, a powerful symbol whose influence was at times undeniable, and at others utterly illusory. The question of his actual control, the extent to which he was truly the master of his own destiny, or merely a player in the complex game of courtly intrigue, remains a subject of persistent scholarly debate. Was the emperor the puppeteer, or merely a puppet himself, controlled by the intricate strands of ambition woven by the powerful daimyo and the subtly manipulative court ladies? The answer, obscured by centuries of carefully constructed narratives and concealed agendas, continues to elude definitive resolution, a testament to the enduring mystery and allure of the imperial court. The delicate balance of power remained precariously poised, a tense equilibrium threatened at any moment by the slightest shift in allegiance or the whisper of a secret, a silent testament to the enduring power of courtly intrigue. The midday sun beat down on the assembled crowd, a shimmering haze rising from the packed earth. From my vantage point, perched high on the scaffolding overlooking the exhibition grounds, the scene unfolded like a meticulously crafted tapestry. The air thrummed with the excited chatter of the onlookers, a low hum punctuated by the sharp cries of the falcons. Below, the daimyo's retinue, resplendent in their silks and armor, formed a colorful perimeter around the display. My fingers, calloused from years of working the gold, tightened around the small, leather-bound sketchbook I held. I was here not as a spectator, but as an observer, my keen eye trained to notice the minute details that others overlooked. The first falcon, a peregrine, a magnificent creature of lethal grace, was released. It launched into the air with breathtaking speed, a blur of feathers against the azure sky. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath mirroring the falcon's sudden ascent. But my attention wasn't solely on the bird's majestic flight. I watched the falconer, his movements precise, almost imperceptible, a silent dance of command and control, his gauntleted hand, the way he held the lure, the subtle shift in his weight. These were the nuances that spoke volumes. There was a tension in his stance, a readiness that suggested something beyond a mere spectacle. He wasn't simply displaying a trained bird, he was demonstrating a weapon. And indeed, the weapon's potential was undeniable. The falcon, a living arrow, plunged downwards with terrifying accuracy, its talons extended, aimed at a small, tethered decoy. The speed of the strike was almost supernatural, a demonstration of raw, untamed power. I sketched rapidly, capturing not only the falcon's form, but the almost imperceptible tremor in the falconer's hand. the barely visible beads of sweat on his brow. These details, these subtle signs of intense concentration, revealed a level of expertise honed through years of painstaking training, a dedication far exceeding mere entertainment. The exhibition continued, showcasing a variety of birds, hawks, kestrels, even a majestic eagle. Each demonstration was a display of controlled ferocity, a testament to the art of falconry and the intricate bond between human and bird. Yet, beneath the veneer of courtly entertainment, I sensed a deeper significance. The murmurings of a crowd hinted at something beyond the visual spectacle. I recalled fragments of historical accounts I'd read, whispers of the samurai's use of birds in warfare. The historical record speaks of the strategic deployment of falcons and other birds of prey during the samurai period. Their use was far from merely symbolic. These birds were employed in reconnaissance, their keen eyesight able to spot enemy movements from afar. Trained falcons could even be used to harass and disorient enemy cavalry, disrupting their formations and creating confusion. The image of falcons diving from the sky, creating chaos amongst the ranks of an opposing army, was not merely a fanciful notion. It was a documented reality, a grimly efficient tactic born from the harsh realities of warfare. However, the extent to which these feathered weapons were employed in actual combat remains a subject of scholarly debate. While historical texts detail instances of birds being used in reconnaissance and harrying actions, the question of their effectiveness in large-scale battles continues to stir contention among historians. Some argue that the use of birds in combat was largely symbolic, a display of power and prestige, while others contend that their strategic value was underestimated, their contributions to military victories unfairly overlooked. The arguments often center around the logistical challenges of deploying birds of prey on a battlefield, the unpredictability of their behavior, the potential for friendly fire, and the difficulty of maintaining their effectiveness in the chaos of battle raise valid concerns. These issues, combined with the limited historical evidence, make definitively determining the extent of falconry's true role in samurai warfare extremely difficult. As the exhibition concluded, the last of the birds were returned to their hooded perches. The crowd began to disperse, their excitement slowly waning into the ordinary rhythm of the day. But my gaze remained fixed on the falconers, their faces etched with the quiet intensity of masters of their craft. They didn't appear to be merely handlers of birds, but guardians of a tradition that extended far beyond mere spectacle. They were custodians of a legacy, a testament to the complex interplay between human ingenuity and the untamed power of nature. A legacy, I realized, that history was still struggling to fully decipher. I closed my sketchbook, the sketches within serving as silent witnesses to the intricate interplay of power, skill, and the enduring mystery woven into the history of falconry. The sun cast long shadows across the now empty field, hinting at the secrets still held within the folds of time. The goldsmith's eye, attuned to the subtlest of details, had glimpsed a fraction of them. The scent of beeswax and polished gold hung heavy in the air of Master Elias's workshop. He hummed a low, lilting tune as he carefully filed a delicate filigree, his nimble fingers moving with practiced ease. But his attention wasn't entirely on the intricate design before him. His ears, honed by years of listening to the hushed confidences of his wealthy clientele, were picking up the whispers that drifted in from the courtyard beyond. Today, the whispers were particularly rife. The annual Imperial Spring Festival was just days away, and the usual pre-festival bustle had been amplified tenfold by a palpable tension, an unspoken anxiety that crackled like static electricity. A sharp, clipped voice cut through the general hum. "The Jade Dragon, missing, impossible." Elias froze, his file momentarily still. The Jade Dragon. The Emperor's prized jade carving, a legendary piece passed down through generations. Impossible that it was missing. Yet, the hushed tone suggested otherwise. He strained to hear more, but the speakers moved away. A flurry of silks and laughter momentarily distracted him, the usual retinue of courtiers and ladies-in-waiting passing through the courtyard. Then, another snippet. This one laced with a conspiratorial hiss. "Cipher the Nightingale, only she, Nightingale." The Emperor's enigmatic advisor, renowned for her sharp intellect and even sharper tongue. Elias knew the whispers surrounding her. Some saw her as a brilliant strategist, others as a manipulative power broker. A cipher? This was intriguing. His work forgotten, Elias leaned against his workbench, his mind racing. He'd heard rumors, of course. Everyone in the imperial city whispered. But these snippets felt different, more significant. They hinted at something larger, something that could shake the very foundations of the court. Later that evening, while enjoying a simple supper, Elias overheard two guards discussing a seemingly innocuous topic: the new arrangement of potted chrysanthemums in the imperial gardens. But the way they spoke, the almost imperceptible shifts in their tone, the coded glances they exchanged, Elias realized they were using a system. He recalled a forgotten historical account, a footnote in an ancient text detailing a method of communication employed within the imperial court centuries ago. A system of arranging flowers according to a predetermined code, each color, variety, and placement conveying a specific message. The whispers about the chrysanthemums weren't about flowers at all. They were a coded message. The realization sent a shiver down Elias's spine. He was inadvertently privy to the hidden currents of the imperial court, caught in a silent, dangerous undertow of intrigue. The next day, Elias saw Nightingale herself. She moved through the bustling courtyard with an air of quiet authority, her movements graceful, her expression inscrutable. The rumors swirling around her intensified. Some claimed she possessed supernatural powers. Others accused her of treason. The truth, as always, seemed shrouded in mystery. That evening, over a cup of lukewarm tea, Elias found himself pondering a quote from a recently published scholarly text he'd glimpsed at the library. The author, a renowned historian, posed a provocative question. Does courtly gossip, often dismissed as frivolous, truly shape events, or is it merely a reflection of deeper power struggles? Or perhaps a carefully orchestrated tool of manipulation? Asterisk. The question echoed the uncertainties that swirled around him. The missing jade dragon, the cryptic cipher, the coded messages delivered through floral arrangements, were these mere coincidence, or were they carefully placed pieces in a larger game? Was the gossip itself the weapon? Elias realized he was standing at the edge of a precipice. He, a humble goldsmith, was overhearing secrets that could determine the fate of the empire. The whispers in the wind were no longer just whispers. They were a storm brewing on the horizon, a storm whose full fury he was only beginning to glimpse. He had been witness to an unspoken code, a silent language passed among those who held power, a language spoken only in hushed tones, through subtle gestures and strategically placed chrysanthemums. And the consequences of its breach, he suspected, could be far-reaching and deadly. The weight of his accidental knowledge pressed down on him, leaving him feeling both terrified and strangely exhilarated. The game, it seemed, had only just begun. The air in the imperial workshop hung thick with the scent of incense and melting gold. Master Hoshi, a goldsmith whose name whispered through the court like a legend, hunched over his workbench, his brow furrowed in intense concentration. Before him lay a sheet of gold, impossibly thin, almost translucent, reflecting the flickering candlelight like captured sunlight. This was no ordinary gold. It was shakudo, an alloy of gold and copper, its deep purplish-black hue prized above all others in the imperial court. He was tasked with creating a unique ornament for the emperor, a gift to commemorate the emperor's 50th year on the chrysanthemum throne. The emperor's request was audacious. A phoenix, its wings outstretched in a graceful arc, crafted to capture the very essence of the mythical bird's majesty. Hoshi began by sketching the design onto a thin sheet of washi paper, meticulously outlining each feather, the delicate curve of the beak, and the regal bearing of the creature. This was not merely a replication. It was an evocation. Each line held a story. Each curve spoke of a tradition stretching back centuries. He then painstakingly transferred the design onto the shakudo sheet, using a fine stylus to etch the delicate outlines. The next stage required absolute precision. Hoshi carefully cut out the phoenix shape, using a set of tiny, exquisitely crafted scissors passed down through generations of his family. These weren't ordinary scissors. Their blades, forged from a secret alloy he guarded jealously, possessed a sharpness unlike any other, capable of slicing through the shakudo with effortless precision. He employed a technique known only to his family, involving the precise application of pressure and a rhythmic rocking motion, allowing him to make the intricate cuts without tearing the delicate metal. Once the phoenix was cut, the true artistry began. Hoshi utilized the technique of kebori, a type of chasing and repousse, to create a three-dimensional effect. He used various sizes and shapes of punches and chisels, each meticulously crafted and sharpened to achieve specific effects. With incredible patience and skill, he hammered the shakudo from the back, carefully shaping the curves and details of the phoenix's feathers. The process was slow, painstaking, requiring intense focus and a steady hand. He would spend hours, sometimes days, working on a single feather, ensuring its realism and perfection. But Hoshi's secret weapon, the element that truly set his work apart, was his unique approach to surface treatment. He possessed a series of secret recipes for patinas which he carefully applied to the shakudo to enhance the depth and complexity of the color. This wasn't just about aesthetics. Each patina was imbued with symbolic meaning. The deep black of the shakudo itself represented the profound mysteries of the universe, while the subtle iridescence achieved through his patinas hinted at the divine light emanating from the emperor himself. These processes, passed down through his family for countless generations, were a closely guarded secret, known only to him and a select few. This aspect of the goldsmith's work elevated the ornament beyond mere craftsmanship into a form of alchemy, a transformative process imbuing the artwork with symbolic weight. The eyes of the phoenix, however, presented a unique challenge. Hoshi used a technique he called kinpaku, applying extremely thin sheets of gold leaf to create a subtle yet captivating gleam. The contrast between the deep black of the shakudo and the luminous gold leaf created a mesmerizing effect, bringing the mythical bird to life. He placed each tiny flake with the precision of a surgeon, ensuring perfect alignment and even distribution. The completed phoenix ornament was a breathtaking spectacle. The deep, lustrous black of the shakudo shimmered under the light, while the delicately rendered feathers seemed to move with an almost ethereal grace. The gold leaf in the eyes added a final touch of magic, bringing depth and expression to the creature's gaze. It wasn't simply an object. It was a story, a legacy, a testament to the artistry and the deep-rooted traditions of Japanese goldsmithing. The use of gold and other precious metals in the imperial court of ancient Japan held profound cultural significance. Gold, symbolizing the sun and the emperor's divine authority, was intricately woven into the fabric of court life. From ceremonial robes to elaborate religious artifacts, gold represented purity, power, and eternity. Other metals, like shakudo and silver, each carried their own symbolic meaning, contributing to the rich visual tapestry of courtly culture. Goldsmiths in Japan enjoyed a privileged status, considered artisans of the highest order. Their skill wasn't merely technical. It was deeply intertwined with artistic expression, spiritual meaning, and cultural preservation. Generations of goldsmiths passed down their knowledge, skills, and secret techniques, creating a lineage that spanned centuries and cemented their place in Japanese history. Hoshi, a worthy inheritor of this rich tradition, stood as a living embodiment of the legacy, his creation a testament to the enduring power of craftsmanship and the profound cultural significance of gold in the imperial court. His work, a gift of gold, was far more than a mere ornament. It was a symbol of the emperor's reign and the enduring spirit of Japan. The air in the imperial palace hung thick with incense and anticipation. Emperor Hongwu, a man known for his sharp eyes and even sharper wit, sat upon his jade throne, his gaze sweeping across the meticulously arranged offerings. Finally, his eyes landed on the intricately crafted golden phoenix, its wings seemingly poised for flight, a masterpiece presented by the humble goldsmith, Li Xian. The emperor's expression, usually unreadable, softened ever so slightly. A faint smile played on his lips as he reached out a slender hand, his fingers tracing the delicate filigree work. The silence in the hall was profound, broken only by the soft whisper of silk against silk. The emperor held the phoenix aloft, turning it slowly in the light. Its brilliance was undeniable, a testament not only to Li Xian's skill but also to the wealth and power of the empire itself. He examined the tiny details, the perfectly rendered feathers, the lifelike gleam in its amber eyes, the intricate patterns woven into its golden plumage. It was more than just a beautiful object. It was a symbol, a representation of the emperor's own authority and the flourishing prosperity of his reign. After what seemed like an eternity, the emperor lowered the phoenix. He looked at Li Xian, whose body trembled slightly under the weight of the emperor's scrutiny. The goldsmith's future hung precariously in the balance, dependent on the emperor's judgment. This was not merely a matter of artistic appreciation. It was a test, a subtle assessment of loyalty and skill. The emperor's favor was a coveted prize, a pathway to wealth, recognition, and perhaps even power. His disfavor, however, could mean ruin, exile, even death. Finally, the emperor spoke, his voice a low rumble that resonated throughout the vast hall. "This," he declared, his words carrying the weight of imperial decree, "is a masterpiece. Li Xian, your skill surpasses even the legends. Your dedication to your craft is admirable." The words hung in the air, a balm to Li Xian's frayed nerves. A wave of relief washed over the goldsmith. He had secured the emperor's favor. The emperor's pronouncement was not just praise. It was a seal of approval, elevating Li Xian from a humble artisan to a respected member of the imperial court. He was granted commissions for future projects, his workshop enriched with imperial resources, and his family assured of a future free from want. The emperor's decision carried profound implications, transforming the life of a single goldsmith and, in a way, reflecting the profound connection between imperial power and artistic expression. Emperor Hongwu's patronage of the arts was a significant aspect of his reign. Historical records reveal extensive investments in imperial workshops, where skilled artisans, including goldsmiths, painters, calligraphers, and sculptors, worked under the direct supervision of the court. These workshops were not simply places of production. They were centers of innovation and experimentation, pushing the boundaries of artistic expression. The emperor commissioned countless works of art, from magnificent porcelain vases to intricate jade carvings and monumental paintings celebrating imperial victories. These artistic endeavors served both practical and symbolic functions, decorating palaces, enriching religious ceremonies, and celebrating the power and prestige of the Hongwu reign. Artisans, elevated to the status of court officials, enjoyed a level of respect and security rarely seen elsewhere in society. Their skills were directly linked to the splendor and might of the empire, solidifying the artisan's importance within the wider imperial structure. However, the true motivations behind the emperor's artistic patronage remain a subject of debate among historians. While the sheer beauty and craftsmanship of the resulting artworks are undeniable, some scholars argue that imperial patronage was not merely an altruistic act of supporting artistic endeavors. They suggest that the emperor's extensive support for artists served a strategic political purpose, consolidating power and reinforcing his authority through the creation and dissemination of powerful visual narratives. The imperial art projects depicted scenes of imperial majesty, military triumphs, and bountiful harvests, fostering a sense of national unity and loyalty. The control over the artistic narrative, the selection of subjects, and the disbursement of resources allowed the emperor to shape public perception, cementing his image as a wise, just, and powerful ruler. By supporting and controlling artistic production, the emperor could effectively utilize art as a tool of propaganda, enhancing his prestige both within his court and among his subjects. Conversely, other historians emphasize the genuine artistic appreciation of the emperor, suggesting that his patronage was driven by a genuine love of beauty and a desire to cultivate artistic excellence within his realm. They point to the diversity of artistic styles commissioned by the emperor, indicating an open mind and a willingness to support various forms of artistic expression. The creation of imperial workshops, providing artisans with resources and a secure environment, is presented as evidence of a benevolent ruler fostering artistic growth for its own sake, rather than simply as a political maneuver. They highlight the meticulous detail and technical skill exhibited in the emperor's commissions, suggesting that the emperor's interest went beyond mere political expediency. This debate, therefore, highlights the complex interplay between artistic creation, imperial power, and the enduring questions surrounding the true nature of the emperor's motivations. Was it a calculated strategy for political gain, or was it a genuine commitment to the flourishing of the arts? The answer, it seems, continues to lie somewhere within the shimmering surfaces and the subtle narratives of the art itself, remaining a testament to the enduring power of imperial patronage and the enduring mystery of the emperor's intentions. The clinking of gold, the scent of expensive perfumes, and the hushed whispers of courtiers. These were the sounds and smells that now permeated Elias's life. His rise had been meteoric. From a humble workshop tucked away in a quiet corner of the city, he now found himself crafting intricate jewelry for the emperor himself, a position that placed him squarely within the swirling vortex of imperial power. His creations, each piece a miniature masterpiece of artistry and skill, were not merely adornments. They were symbols of status, whispers of influence, and, increasingly, instruments of political maneuvering. The emperor, a man known for his capricious nature and insatiable hunger for luxury, had taken a particular liking to Elias's work. His commissions became larger, more elaborate, more significant. Elias, initially overwhelmed by the sudden shift in his fortunes, found himself adapting, learning the unspoken rules of the court, the subtle nuances of power plays disguised as polite conversation. He learned to listen more than he spoke, to observe the shifting alliances and rivalries with hawk-like intensity. The court, he discovered, was a delicate ecosystem of ambition and intrigue, where friendships were fleeting and betrayals were commonplace. The gold he worked with was no longer just a material. It was the currency of influence, a tangible representation of the power he now inadvertently wielded. His increasing proximity to the emperor brought him into contact with figures of immense power and influence: the Grand Vizier, the emperor's favored concubines, and the shadowy figures who moved behind the scenes, pulling the strings of the empire. These encounters were fraught with danger. A misplaced word, a misinterpreted gesture, could lead to swift and devastating consequences. Elias, ever the cautious artisan, navigated this treacherous landscape with a meticulousness that rivaled his goldsmithing skills. He learned to read the subtext of conversations, the subtle shifts in body language, the almost imperceptible changes in tone that hinted at underlying currents of power. He became a master of silence, choosing his words carefully, his actions even more so. One such incident stood out in his memory. He had been summoned late one evening to the emperor's private chambers to repair a particularly prized necklace, a piece studded with rare moonstones, rumored to possess mystical properties. While he worked, the emperor engaged him in conversation, discussing matters of state with a casualness that belied the gravity of the topics. The Grand Vizier, a portly man with eyes like chips of obsidian, entered the chamber, his face betraying a mixture of annoyance and veiled threat. The emperor, seemingly oblivious, continued his conversation with Elias, seemingly using him as a neutral observer, a silent witness to a power struggle unfolding in real time. Elias, his fingers deftly repairing the delicate clasp, understood instantly the precarious position he found himself in. He was not merely a goldsmith anymore, he was a pawn, albeit an unwitting one, in a larger game of power. The court's rituals and traditions were another source of fascination, and a frequent subject of subtle observation. One particularly striking custom was the Feast of the Shifting Sands, a lavish banquet held annually in the heart of the imperial palace. This wasn't simply a feast, it was a carefully choreographed performance. Each dish, each drink, each carefully placed ornament was imbued with symbolic meaning, reflecting the ever-shifting political landscape. The seating arrangement alone was a complex puzzle, reflecting alliances, rivalries, and the relative standing of each courtier. The food itself was a spectacle. Dishes were served in elaborate vessels, some even incorporating miniature mechanical elements that moved or changed color during the course of the meal, adding an element of surprise and intrigue. More importantly, it was during this feast that subtle displays of power occurred. Carefully veiled gestures, cryptic remarks, and barely perceptible shifts in demeanor. Historians still debated the true purpose of these elaborate ceremonies. Were they mere displays of wealth and power? Extravagant spectacles designed to impress and intimidate? Or did they serve a deeper social and political purpose? Did the seemingly arbitrary rituals subtly reinforce the existing power structure, creating a sense of order and stability in a court where intrigue and treachery were commonplace? Did the carefully choreographed movements of the courtiers, the precise placement of the cutlery, the symbolic meaning of each dish, serve as a form of nonverbal communication, conveying messages of loyalty, threat, or alliance that bypassed the ears of the unwary? Elias, having witnessed firsthand the subtle power dynamics at play during the Feast of the Shifting Sands, suspected the latter. The rituals were not simply for show. They were a sophisticated language, understood only by those who possessed the power or the insight to decipher their intricate code. The seemingly arbitrary traditions served as a foundation upon which the shifting sands of courtly politics played out. Understanding their nuances was as crucial to survival as understanding the intricate workings of the jeweled crowns he created. The survival, he knew, of more than just himself now depended on it. His very life, and perhaps even the fate of the empire, seemed to hang in the balance, delicate as the moonstones he skillfully repaired under the emperor's watchful gaze, a silent witness to the unfolding drama. The clang of the hammer against the anvil, usually a rhythmic comfort, felt discordant today. Kenzo, the goldsmith, usually concerned with the subtle gleam of polished gold and the precise weight of a newly minted coin, found himself embroiled in a web of alliances and rivalries far removed from his workshop. The quiet life he'd cultivated was shattered, replaced by the urgent whispers of informants and the cold steel glint of swords in the distance. His newfound power, born not from martial prowess but from a surprisingly lucrative contract to mint coins for the newly appointed governor, had thrust him into a dangerous game. The governor, Lord Masamune, a man known for his ruthless ambition and even more ruthless efficiency, had chosen Kenzo not for any political connection, but for the unparalleled quality of his craftsmanship. Kenzo's coins, flawlessly minted and bearing an image of the governor's crest so exquisitely rendered it seemed to breathe, were rapidly replacing the crude, inconsistent currency circulating previously. This, however, had attracted unwanted attention. The old merchant families, the ones who'd previously controlled the flow of money through their own, less scrupulous methods, were not amused. They saw Kenzo as an upstart, a threat to their established power, and their whispers of displeasure quickly escalated into open hostility. The head of the most powerful merchant family, the Shiba, a man named Taro, was particularly venomous. He openly accused Kenzo of using substandard materials, of defrauding the governor, of everything but outright treason. He leveraged his influence, subtly and not so subtly, to undermine Kenzo's operations, spreading rumors among the local populace and attempting to sabotage deliveries of precious metals. Kenzo, however, was not alone. He had found allies in the most unexpected places. The governor's samurai guard, initially wary of the goldsmith's sudden prominence, had come to appreciate the quality of his work and the economic stability his coins brought. They provided subtle protection, a silent presence that discouraged overt aggression from Taro and his thugs. More surprisingly, he found an unlikely ally in Lord Masamune's ambitious younger brother Hiroki, who saw in Kenzo a powerful, independent agent, a man who could be used to circumvent Taro's influence. Hiroki, ever vigilant for opportunities to advance himself, secretly supplied Kenzo with rare metals and ensured the continued flow of contracts, a silent counterpoint to Taro's attempts at sabotage. This unexpected alliance, however, was a dangerous game. Standing between the two powerful brothers, each with his own agenda and ambitions, put Kenzo in a precarious position. He was a pawn in their game of power, but a pawn who was beginning to understand the rules and even to subtly influence the game himself. He used his knowledge of the intricacies of the coin production process, his ability to control the flow of currency, as a lever, subtly shifting allegiances, feeding information to Hiroki, playing Taro against the governor himself. The delicate balance of power, built on careful exchanges of information, discreet promises, and the subtle threat of economic chaos, was a far cry from the quiet precision of his workshop. The intricacies of this power play were mirrored in the larger context of feudal Japan. Consider the powerful Taira clan, a family whose rise and fall shaped the course of the 12th century. Their dominance, cemented through generations of military prowess and strategic marriages, solidified their position as one of the most influential families in the land. They controlled vast swaths of land, commanded armies, and wielded significant influence at the imperial court. Their power stemmed not only from their military strength, but from the carefully cultivated networks of alliances and loyalties they maintained, a tapestry woven over decades, even centuries. The Taira, at the height of their power, were a force to be reckoned with, shaping the political landscape of the time through both brute force and cunning political maneuvering. Their ultimate downfall, at the hands of the Minamoto clan in the Genpei War, served as a stark reminder of the ephemeral nature of power, even for the most established families. Historians continue to debate the influence of family and lineage in the shaping of ancient Japanese political landscape. Was it primarily bloodlines that determined power, or did other factors, such as personal ability, economic influence, or sheer luck, play a more significant role? The complexities of the matter are further amplified by the lack of readily available, comprehensive records, and the frequent discrepancies between official accounts and the reality of the time. Certainly, familial ties provided a foundational structure, offering pre-existing networks of support and loyalty. However, the rise and fall of numerous clans, the shifting alliances, the betrayals and sudden shifts in power, all suggest a more fluid and complex reality. Individual agency, strategic partnerships, and economic control all played crucial roles in shaping the power dynamics. Kenzo's current predicament, seemingly a localized conflict, mirrored the larger historical struggles where the weight of lineage clashed with the ambitions of individuals and the changing economic realities. He found himself, quite literally, at the intersection of these long-standing debates, his own life a microcosm of the broader historical forces at play in the land. His decisions, as small and seemingly inconsequential as they sometimes were, had the potential to resonate through the system, shaping the future as powerfully as the actions of any samurai lord or merchant prince. The gold gleaming in his workshop was more than just metal. It was the raw material of power, and Kenzo was learning to wield it with growing confidence. The air hung heavy with the scent of incense and damp earth. Master Hoshi, goldsmith to the shogun, adjusted his spectacles, his gaze sweeping across the intricate carvings of the 5-story pagoda. He'd been commissioned to repair a damaged gilded dragon, a task that required several days of meticulous work within the pagoda's shadowed interior. But it wasn't the dragon that held his attention now. It was a series of unsettling occurrences, subtle yet unnerving, that had begun to prick at his keen observation. First, there had been the whispers. Muffled voices carried on the evening breeze that snaked through the pagoda's latticed windows, too low to decipher, yet undeniably present. They seemed to emanate from the upper levels, a place normally deserted except for the occasional monk performing maintenance. He'd initially dismissed them as the rustling of fabric or the creak of ancient wood, the natural sounds of an aging structure. But the whispers had become more frequent, more insistent, often accompanied by the faintest clinking of metal. Then came the shadows. Not the natural shadows cast by the setting sun, but fleeting, unnatural movements in the periphery of his vision, quick, darting silhouettes that vanished as soon as he turned to look. He'd rubbed his eyes, thinking he was weary from the intense work, but the shadows persisted, dancing just beyond the reach of his perception. One evening, while meticulously applying gold leaf to the dragon's claw, he witnessed something far more concrete. A glint of polished steel, followed by the soft thud of something heavy being placed on the floor. Peeking through a crack in the wooden lattice, he saw a small, intricately carved box bound in dark leather. Two figures, cloaked and hooded, were involved in a hushed exchange, their faces obscured by shadows. They spoke in low tones, their words lost to the distance, but their movements suggested a clandestine transaction, an urgent, secretive handover. The box was passed between them, its weight palpable even from his vantage point. Before he could fully observe the transaction's conclusion, they were gone, leaving behind only the lingering scent of sandalwood and the unsettling silence. Master Hoshi's mind raced. The pagoda, a sacred structure, seemed to have become a stage for covert activities. Was this a political plot? A forbidden romance? Or perhaps something far more sinister? He knew the history of such structures. He had read texts detailing how, during the samurai period, pagodas often served a dual purpose. While ostensibly places of worship, their elevated positions provided unparalleled strategic advantages. They acted as effective lookout points, commanding sweeping views of the surrounding landscape, allowing for early warning of approaching enemies or rebellions. Some historians even argued that certain pagodas served as secret communication hubs, their intricate architecture concealing hidden passages and chambers used for clandestine meetings. Indeed, many such structures were not just religious symbols, but also centers of political power and intrigue. The historical debate raged on, with scholars still debating the extent to which these majestic structures served as centers for worship versus tactical and strategic uses. The thought lingered, could this clandestine meeting he had witnessed be a modern echo of the pagoda's historical role as a strategic center of power? The box, the whispered conversations, the fleeting shadows, all suggested an operation far beyond the realm of religious devotion. Perhaps it held something of significant political importance, or maybe something far more dangerous. He considered the possibility of a conspiracy, a secret pact made in the very heart of what appeared to be a tranquil place of worship. The next morning, Master Hoshi reported his findings to his trusted associate, Kenji, a former samurai now employed as his bodyguard. Kenji listened intently, his expression grave. He was a man of few words, but his sharp eyes betrayed a deep understanding of the political currents that swirled beneath the surface of the shogunate's seemingly placid existence. The shadows within the pagoda are far deeper than those cast by the sun, Master Hoshi, Kenji said, his voice low and somber. This is a matter of grave consequence. We must tread carefully. The goldsmith nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. The repair of the gilded dragon suddenly seemed a trivial matter compared to the larger mystery unfolding within the ancient pagoda. He would need to investigate further, but he had to be discreet, careful not to alert those involved in the clandestine operation. The seemingly tranquil pagoda was far from serene. It held secrets, and Master Hoshi, a humble goldsmith, found himself unwittingly caught in the middle of something far larger than himself. The shadows in the pagoda held a weight far heavier than gold. He knew, instinctively, that unraveling this mystery could lead him down a perilous path, a path that could change the course of the shogunate itself. The delicate work of repairing the dragon would have to wait. The hunt for the truth had begun. The scent of cherry blossoms, usually a welcome perfume, hung heavy and cloying in the air that evening. It did little to mask the metallic tang of fear that clung to Master Hoshi, the goldsmith, as he meticulously polished a ceremonial dagger. The Emperor's upcoming birthday celebrations were just days away, and the dagger, a masterpiece of swirling gold and inlaid jade, was intended as a gift. But the beauty of the weapon was overshadowed by the ugly truth Hoshi had stumbled upon. It began innocently enough, a seemingly innocuous commission, to repair a damaged lacquered box belonging to Lord Ito, a high-ranking samurai known for his unwavering loyalty to the Emperor. Within the box, however, nestled amongst official documents, Hoshi discovered a series of coded messages written in a delicate script that only a skilled calligrapher would recognize. His own expertise lay not in calligraphy, but in the intricate details of metalsmithing. Yet, he possessed a keen eye for detail, a quality honed over years of crafting intricate pieces for the imperial court. He sensed something amiss. Intrigued, Hoshi carefully copied the messages. Over the following nights, fueled by green tea and an unsettling premonition, he painstakingly deciphered the coded text. The messages revealed a chilling conspiracy. Lord Ito, ostensibly loyal, was the linchpin in a plot to assassinate the Emperor during the birthday celebrations. The plan was audacious, involving a coordinated attack during the grand ceremony, utilizing a network of seemingly loyal courtiers and even members of the Imperial Guard. The objective wasn't simply regicide. It aimed to install a puppet emperor, a distant relative with known sympathies for the ambitious Lord Matsunaga, who desired control of the court and the imperial treasury. The dagger Hoshi was tasked with creating was to be a murder weapon. He would unwittingly contribute to the very act he was horrified to discover. His blood ran cold. The sheer audacity of the plot, its intricacy, and its proximity to success filled him with a dread that was almost palpable. The very air around him seemed to vibrate with the imminent danger. He knew he had to act, but caution was paramount. Lord Ito was powerful, his connections reaching deep within the imperial structure. A hasty accusation could result in his own swift and merciless demise. The memory of the assassination attempt on Shogun Yoshimune in 1718 flooded his mind. The event, though ultimately unsuccessful, served as a stark reminder of the lethal undercurrents of courtly politics. The attempt, though not a direct parallel to the present conspiracy, shared the same undertones of treachery and the potential for violent upheaval of the existing power structure. Hoshi remembered the whispered conversations surrounding the event, the hushed speculation about the extent of the conspiracy, and the lingering questions that never fully received answers. The assassination attempt had been cloaked in secrecy, many details remaining shrouded in doubt, perpetuating the legends surrounding it and its aftermath. He thought of the hushed whispers, the veiled illusions, the subtle shift in loyalties and alliances that had marked the period following the attempt. The historical accounts he knew were incomplete. Historians still debated the true extent of Yoshimune's enemies and the breadth of the conspiracy. Some argued that the assassination attempt was a relatively isolated event, others that it was a symptom of deeper unrest, highlighting a long-simmering discontent that threatened to destabilize the shogunate. The lack of consensus underscored the shadowy nature of power struggles in the samurai period, where hidden agendas and clandestine alliances often played a decisive role. Hoshi realized that his own situation was no different. The lines between loyalty, ambition, and betrayal were blurred, the very fabric of the court woven with threads of deceit. He considered his options carefully. He could alert the Emperor directly, but this risked alerting Ito and jeopardizing the entire operation before he could unravel it. He needed evidence. Solid, irrefutable evidence. Over the next few days, Hoshi meticulously gathered information. He subtly observed Lord Ito's movements, noting his meetings and communications. He meticulously examined the other pieces commissioned by Ito, looking for any more clues. He found a hidden compartment within a seemingly insignificant snuff box, containing a miniature map detailing the planned movements of the Imperial Guard during the birthday celebrations, pinpointing weak points in their deployment. This was the evidence he needed. He decided to approach Lord Kira, a trusted advisor to the emperor, known for his integrity and discretion. Kira was a man of action, his reputation for swift and decisive justice preceding him. Meeting under the cover of darkness in a secluded temple garden, Hoshi presented his findings. The weight of the conspiracy, the fragility of the emperor's safety, rested on Kira's shoulders now. Kira listened intently, his expression grim, as Hoshi detailed the plot. He understood the gravity of the situation. The fate of the empire, perhaps even its very existence, hung precariously in the balance. The web of deceit had been exposed, and the unraveling had begun. The upcoming birthday celebrations, previously anticipated with joy, were now shrouded in the ominous shadow of potential bloodshed and the unknown consequences of this meticulously crafted betrayal. The emperor's safety and the future of the empire rested upon their ability to swiftly and decisively dismantle the plot before it could be enacted. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows across the workbench, highlighting the intricate detail of the unfinished katana hilt. Master Kenji, goldsmith to the shogunate, ran a calloused thumb across the polished gold, the cool metal a stark contrast to the turmoil churning within him. The request was simple enough. Embellish the hilt with the clan crest of Lord Hiroki, a powerful daimyo known for his ruthless ambition and even more ruthless methods. The payment was substantial, enough to secure his family's comfort for generations. But the price of his loyalty, Kenji was beginning to realize, might be far steeper. For weeks, whispers had snaked through the artisan quarter, whispers of Lord Hiroki's cruelty, of peasants driven from their lands, of merchants mysteriously ruined. Kenji, a man of quiet observation and careful judgment, had initially dismissed them as the usual court gossip. However, a recent encounter with a desperate farmer, his face etched with starvation and his eyes hollow with despair, had shattered his complacency. The farmer, barely coherent, had recounted a story of forced relocation, of land seized under dubious pretenses, a tale that resonated chillingly with the rumors Kenji had heard. He had seen the farmer's hand, calloused and scarred, clutching a small, tarnished silver coin, the only remnant of a life now brutally snatched away. The coin, Kenji recognized with a sickening lurch, bore the same crest he was now commissioned to adorn Lord Hiroki's katana with. The weight of it felt heavier than any ingot of gold he'd ever held. This was not merely a commission. It was a silent endorsement, a complicity in the suffering he now knew was real. The moral weight pressed down on him, a crushing burden that threatened to suffocate his conscience. The gold offered to him felt tainted, the gleam of the metal dulled by the shadow of injustice. The samurai code, Bushido, emphasized loyalty above all else. Chugi, unwavering fidelity to one's lord, was the cornerstone of a warrior's life. Yet there was a quirky detail, a subtle nuance that often went unmentioned in the flowery pronouncements of court scholars, the concept of asterisk giri. Giri represented a sense of reciprocal obligation, a web of interconnected duties and responsibilities that went beyond simple loyalty. It wasn't just about unwavering obedience to one's superior, but also about the ethical considerations and social responsibilities inherent in one's actions. It implied a balance between loyalty to one's lord and a sense of responsibility towards one's community, a subtle tension that frequently went unexplored. Historians continued to debate the extent to which Bushido's ideals were genuinely reflected in the actions of samurai. The romantic image of self-sacrificing honor and unwavering loyalty often clashed with the reality of power struggles, political maneuvering, and the brutal realities of feudal warfare. Was Chugi simply a convenient tool for those in power to maintain control, a justification for arbitrary actions? Or did it, as some argue, represent a genuine moral compass, albeit one often warped by the complexities of feudal society? Kenji found himself trapped in this very tension, caught between the Chugi he owed Lord Hiroki and the rising giri he felt towards the suffering peasantry. The magnificent katana hilt, a testament to his skill and artistry, now felt like a symbol of his own moral compromise. The gold, once a promise of prosperity, now seemed like a gilded cage, trapping him in a web of conflicting obligations. He could complete the commission, securing his family's future but betraying his conscience, or he could refuse, facing the wrath of a powerful daimyo and risking everything he held dear. The silence of the workshop was broken only by the rhythmic tick-tock of a nearby clock, each chime a hammer blow against his wavering resolve. He stared at the coin, the tarnished silver reflecting the flickering candlelight, its dull gleam a potent reminder of the consequences of blind loyalty. The farmer's desperate face, etched in his memory, became a symbol of the weight of his decision, a stark contrast to the gleaming gold of the katana hilt. He thought of his own family, of their innocent faces, and the potential repercussions of defying a powerful lord. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced the swirling thoughts in his mind, a stark counterpoint to the moral certainty he felt growing within. Yet the image of the farmer's despair, the hollow look in his eyes, remained imprinted, a constant reminder of the human cost of his potential silence. Kenji picked up his tools, his hands trembling slightly. The choice, he knew, was not merely one of financial security or personal risk. It was a choice between loyalty to a system built on oppression and loyalty to a deeper, more fundamental sense of justice, a decision that would define his legacy far more than any exquisite piece of goldsmithing. The price of loyalty, he was beginning to understand, could be measured not only in material wealth, but also in the weight of a compromised conscience and the enduring burden of silence. The true measure of a man, he realized, lay not only in his skill, but in the choices he made when confronted with the terrible weight of moral responsibility. The unfinished katana hilt lay before him, a silent testament to a decision yet to be made, a decision that would irrevocably alter the course of his life. The air crackled with anticipation, a nervous energy that vibrated through the meticulously manicured gardens of Lord Masamune's estate. A second falconry exhibition was underway, a display of skill and precision meant to impress the visiting dignitaries. But for Taro, the goldsmith whose intricate work adorned the hawk's jesses and bells, the atmosphere held a different weight. He wasn't merely an observer, he was intimately aware of the fragility of the birds, the painstaking effort that went into their training, and the devastating consequences of even a minor error. The first hawk, a magnificent peregrine falcon named Kage, was released with a cry that sliced through the quiet murmur of the assembled guests. Its sleek body, a blur of gray and white, arced through the sky, a feathered projectile honed by months of rigorous training. Its target, a small decoy pheasant, hung suspended from a silken thread, a test of the bird's unwavering focus and deadly accuracy. Kage plummeted, a breathtaking spectacle of controlled power, talons outstretched, seizing the decoy with unwavering precision. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, followed by a wave of appreciative murmurs. But Taro's keen eyes noticed a subtle tremor in the falcon's landing, a slight hesitation before it settled onto its perch. He knew the bird. He had crafted the intricate, lightweight bells that announced its every move. Bells so finely tuned they whispered secrets only a falconer and a goldsmith could understand. That tremor, imperceptible to the untrained eye, spoke of fatigue, perhaps a minor injury. A flicker of unease snaked through his gut. The second falcon, a majestic gerfalcon named Tsuki, was even more impressive. Larger, fiercer, its plumage a stunning contrast of white and black, it represented the pinnacle of falconry skill. Its flight was a majestic ballet of power and grace, a testament to the falconer's dedication and the bird's inherent prowess. Yet, even as the crowd erupted in applause at its flawless capture of the decoy, Taro's anxiety grew. He knew these birds better than most. He had felt the weight of their tiny bells in his hands, had seen the delicate tracery of their jesses, the intricate leather straps that bound them to their handlers. He saw in Tsuki's powerful flight the strain, the expenditure of energy that might leave it vulnerable. The exhibition continued, a succession of breathtaking displays of avian mastery. But the underlying tension, visible only to Taro, remained. He was acutely aware of the historical context of this event, the deeply ingrained traditions of Japanese falconry that stretched back centuries. He thought of the hahori and *hakama, the traditional garments worn by the falconers, and the specialized equipment they wielded, recalling that during the samurai period, falconers employed a variety of tools and techniques. The shirakawa, a long-handled net for capturing birds, and the taiko, a wooden decoy, were essential components. Furthermore, the careful selection of birds based on their size, speed, and hunting prowess reflected a deep understanding of avian biology and behavior, a knowledge passed down through generations. The unspoken question hung heavy in the air. Did these centuries-old falconry techniques, honed for hunting and sport, influence the development of warfare and hunting strategies in ancient Japan? Historians still debated the issue. Some argued that the precise techniques of falconry, the ability to anticipate the movements of both prey and predator, translated directly into battlefield strategies. Others countered that the connection was tenuous. a romantic notion rather than a demonstrable influence. But Taro, as he watched the falcons, sensed a subtle echo of this debate. The precision, the controlled aggression, the understanding of the delicate balance between power and restraint, these qualities resonated with the ideals of the warrior class, transcending the boundaries of sport and battlefield. As the exhibition concluded, a palpable sense of relief washed over Taro. Both Kage and Tsuki had performed flawlessly, but the underlying tension remained. The lingering unease wasn't solely about the bird's health. It was about the inherent risks and the potential for unforeseen consequences. The flawless performances masked a deeper reality, the fragility of the balance between human ambition and the wild, untamed spirit of the falcon. He saw the admiration in the eyes of the visiting dignitaries, the awe they felt at the skill and artistry on display. But behind that admiration, Taro knew, lay a more complex narrative, one that intertwined the meticulous craft of the goldsmith with the ancient traditions of falconry, and the enduring debate about the legacy of these magnificent birds on the history of Japan itself. The goldsmith's perspective, quiet, yet profoundly insightful, had transformed a simple exhibition into a window into the complex and intertwined history of falconry and the samurai spirit. The flawless performance was a testament to the skill of the falconers, but the lingering unease in Taro's heart served as a reminder of the delicate balance between human ambition and the wild, untamed spirit of the falcon. The echo of this tension resonated deeply, subtly altering the narrative of a seemingly simple event. The rhythmic clang of the hammer against the anvil, usually a source of quiet contentment for Taro, the goldsmith, was drowned out by a churning storm in his gut. He'd overheard snippets of conversation in the tea house, hushed whispers, furtive glances, and the chilling mention of Lord Ito's impending assassination. The plot, hatched by disgruntled samurai seeking to overthrow the shogun, was to be carried out during the upcoming moon-viewing ceremony. Taro, a man of simple means but unwavering loyalty to the shogunate, knew he had to act. His first move was subtle. He slipped a carefully crafted message, disguised as a seemingly innocuous gold leaf ornament, into the possession of Lady Ikari, a trusted lady-in-waiting known for her sharp wit and close proximity to the shogun. The ornament, intricately designed with a hidden compartment, contained a concise warning: moon viewing, danger imminent. Ito targeted. He knew relying solely on a message was risky, requiring an element of trust that could easily be betrayed. He needed a second, more direct approach. His next action was bolder. He sought out Kenji, a samurai known for his integrity and loyalty, a man who frequented his shop for repairs to his family heirloom katana. Kenji, though initially hesitant given the gravity of the accusation, was swayed by Taro's unwavering conviction and the intricate details he provided. Details only an insider could know. Taro didn't reveal his source, choosing to protect the anonymous informant who had shared the initial whispers with him, but the urgency in his voice was undeniable. Kenji, convinced of the plot's authenticity, agreed to help. Together, they strategized. They couldn't directly confront the conspirators without risking exposing themselves and potentially jeopardizing the entire operation. Instead, they decided to subtly alert the shogun's personal guard captain, a man named Masamune, renowned for his shrewdness and unwavering devotion. This would allow Masamune to investigate discreetly, gathering evidence and apprehending the conspirators without a large-scale confrontation that might trigger the plot prematurely. Their meeting with Masamune was tense. Taro, despite his humble profession, held his ground, his calm demeanor contrasting with the gravity of the situation. He presented the evidence, his meticulously crafted ornament, coupled with Kenji's testimony, painting a clear picture of the impending assassination attempt. Masamune, initially skeptical, listened intently. The detail in Taro's account and Kenji's corroboration convinced him of the plot's legitimacy. He thanked them both, acknowledging their bravery and promising swift and decisive action. The ensuing investigation, orchestrated by Masamune, was swift and efficient. Several conspirators were apprehended, their plans thwarted before they could be executed. The shogun, informed discreetly, remained calm and collected, publicly praising the efficiency of his guard and the timely warning that allowed him to avert disaster. While the conspirators faced the consequences of their actions, the precise nature of their punishment remained shrouded in secrecy, a common practice in the shogunate to maintain order and avoid public unrest. Interestingly, a common form of punishment during the samurai period was hanare zome, a form of exile. It wasn't simply banishment. It involved the forced removal of the offender from their social standing, their name being struck from the family register, effectively erasing their existence within the community. The severity of this punishment is evident, as it not only meant physical separation but also complete social annihilation. This method, though seemingly devoid of immediate physical violence, was a harsh and deeply shaming form of justice. However, historians continue to debate the efficacy and fairness of the judicial system in the samurai period. The lack of a standardized legal code, coupled with the significant influence of social standing and personal connections on legal outcomes, meant that justice was often unevenly applied. While the ruling class often enjoyed leniency, those of lower social standing faced harsher penalties. This disparity, along with the frequent use of summary justice and the potential for corruption within the system, has fueled ongoing scholarly debates about its true effectiveness and moral implications. The case of the averted assassination, while showcasing the vigilance of some officials, also highlights the underlying vulnerabilities and inconsistencies within the judicial mechanisms of the era. The fact that Taro, a goldsmith, played such a pivotal role emphasizes the importance of individuals, regardless of their social rank, in shaping the course of events and in bringing to light the cracks in a system perceived as both powerful and rigid. The air hung heavy with the scent of incense and the unspoken tension that clung to the ornate shoji screens of Lord Masamune's study. Kenzo, the goldsmith, his hands calloused but steady, felt the weight of his audacity pressing down on him like the winter snows on the mountain passes. He had summoned them, Lord Masamune, the ruthless daimyo, his chief advisor, the cunning strategist, Lord Ito, and surprisingly, even Lady Kaede, Masamune's enigmatic younger sister, whose influence whispered through the halls of the castle like a phantom breeze. This was not a request. This was a confrontation, a calculated risk. "My Lord Masamune," Kenzo began, his voice surprisingly firm, "I believe you know the purpose of this meeting. The whispers about the forged documents, the ones that would condemn the innocent and enrich the guilty, have reached even my humble workshop." Masamune, a man whose face was as sharp and unforgiving as a winter hawk, merely raised an eyebrow. His silence was a more potent weapon than any sword. Lord Ito, beside him, a picture of serene composure that belied the sharp intelligence in his eyes, remained silent, his gaze unwavering. Lady Kate, however, betrayed a flicker of something akin to amusement. Perhaps it was the audacity of a lowly goldsmith daring to question the decisions of such powerful men. "Whispers are the tools of fools, goldsmith," Ito finally spoke, his voice a low, smooth rumble. "Unless, of course, those whispers hold the weight of irrefutable evidence." Kenzo presented a small, intricately carved wooden box. Inside, nestled on a bed of crimson silk, lay a single, tarnished gold coin. "This coin, my lord," Kenzo stated, placing it carefully on the polished table, "is the key." Its markings, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye, matched those on the forged seals used in the documents. The room fell silent again, the only sound the crackling of the charcoal brazier. Masamune picked up the coin, his fingers tracing the almost invisible markings with an unnerving slowness. His eyes, usually so cold, showed a flicker of something that could have been surprise or perhaps even uncertainty. "Explain," Masamune commanded, his voice devoid of emotion. Kenzo spent the next hour detailing his findings, meticulously explaining the subtle irregularities in the gold alloy, the inconsistencies in the stamping process, the telltale signs of hurried craftsmanship that betrayed the forgery. He spoke of the risks he had taken, the sleepless nights spent examining the coins, the fear that gnawed at him as he pieced together the truth. He painted a picture of a conspiracy reaching into the very heart of Masamune's court, a web of deceit spun by those in positions of power, a dangerous truth that could easily cost him his life. The ensuing discussion was a carefully choreographed dance of power. Masamune, while clearly agitated, maintained a facade of control. Ito attempted to deflect Kenzo's accusations, spinning intricate webs of doubt and distraction. Lady Kaede, however, remained surprisingly silent, her expression inscrutable. Her silence, however, was almost as telling as any accusation. As Kenzo spoke, his mind wandered to the complexities of the social hierarchy that governed their lives. He thought of the rigid structure of the samurai period, the vast chasm between the warrior elite and the commoners like himself. He was a member of the Heimen, the commoners, a group with little social mobility and even less political power. The very act of confronting Masamune, a powerful daimyo, was an act of supreme audacity, an almost unthinkable transgression. Historians, Kenzo mused, still debated the fluidity of this system. Did exceptional skill or extraordinary circumstances truly offer a path to advancement? Or were these mere myths, tales spun to console those trapped in their predetermined social strata? Kenzo's own life seemed to be a testament to the latter belief. Yet here he was, standing before the very symbol of that rigid social hierarchy, challenging its foundations. He thought of Taro, his apprentice, a bright young man with a talent for metalwork that surpassed even his own. Taro, born into the lowest echelons of society, faced a future seemingly predetermined by his birth. Would Taro ever escape the limitations of his social standing? Would his skill alone be enough to elevate him? Or would he, like so many others, be forever bound to his place in the rigid structure of Japanese society? The answer, Kenzo knew, remained frustratingly elusive, a question historians continue to grapple with to this day. The meeting concluded with a tense silence. Masamune's decision was not stated outright, but a subtle shift in his demeanor. The barely perceptible softening of his gaze offered a sliver of hope. The risk Kenzo had taken, the audacity of confronting those in power, seemed to have paid off, for now. But the shadow of uncertainty remained, hanging over him as heavily as the incense still lingering in the air. The future, like the intricate markings on the forged coin, remained inscrutable, its details revealed only through careful scrutiny and a constant awareness of the precarious balance of power. The calculated risk had been taken. The outcome, however, remained to be seen. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows across the faces of the assembled daimyo, their expressions ranging from grim satisfaction to quiet relief. Lord Ito, his usually impeccable robes rumpled and stained with sweat, stood before them, a prisoner. His carefully crafted conspiracy, aimed at seizing control of the shogunate and plunging the land into civil war, lay shattered. The intricate web Ito had spun, involving forged documents, bribed officials, and clandestine meetings in the dead of night, had unraveled thanks to the unwavering loyalty of Lord Kenji and the sharp wit of Lady Akari. Kenji, ever vigilant, had noticed inconsistencies in Ito's accounts, subtle discrepancies that sparked his suspicions. Akari, with her unmatched knowledge of courtly intrigue and her keen eye for detail, pieced together the fragmented evidence, revealing the full extent of Ito's treacherous plan. The evidence was irrefutable. Forged seals, intercepted letters detailing the planned assassination of the shogun's closest advisors, and the confessions of several lesser conspirators painted a damning picture. Ito's defense, a feeble attempt to claim innocence and blame his subordinates, crumbled under the weight of the presented facts. The shogun, his face etched with a mixture of anger and disappointment, delivered the sentence with chilling calm. Ito was stripped of his titles and lands, his family's lineage disgraced, a fate far worse than death for a samurai. His closest allies, those who had actively participated in the plot, met similar fates: banishment, confiscation of property, and, in some cases, seppuku, ritual suicide to restore honor, although tarnished. The lesser conspirators, those who had been manipulated or coerced, received more lenient punishments, ranging from imprisonment to forced labor. The shogun's decree served as a stark warning. Loyalty and integrity were paramount, and treason would not be tolerated. The meticulous execution of the punishments ensured that the message resonated throughout the land, silencing any lingering whispers of dissent. The aftermath of Ito's failed coup d'état bore a striking resemblance to the events following the Onin War, 1467 to 1477. Just as Ito's plot aimed to destabilize the established power structure, the Onin War shattered the fragile peace and led to a period of protracted conflict. The subsequent years, much like the immediate aftermath of Ito's conspiracy, saw a reshuffling of alliances and a consolidation of power amongst the victorious factions. The shogunate, weakened but not broken by the turmoil, emerged with a clearer vision of its future, implementing reforms to prevent similar upheavals. The fall of Ito, like the end of the Onin War, served as a catalyst for significant political change, albeit on a smaller scale. The redistribution of Ito's vast holdings, his former allies' demotion, all contributed to a shift in the delicate balance of power within the shogunate's court. New alliances formed, old ones dissolved, and the landscape of power shifted subtly yet decisively. However, even centuries later, historians continue to debate the true impact of Ito's conspiracy and similar events. Some argue that the swift and decisive action taken by the shogun prevented a wider conflict, stabilizing the land and preserving a semblance of order. Others contend that the suppression of the conspiracy merely masked deeper societal fissures, delaying rather than resolving the underlying tensions that threatened the shogunate's authority. The long-term effects of the power struggles and political intrigues of the samurai period remain a subject of ongoing scholarly discourse. Did the suppression of Ito's rebellion lead to a more stable and prosperous era, or did it merely postpone an inevitable reckoning? The sources, often fragmented and biased, offer differing interpretations, leaving the question open to endless debate. The silencing of Ito's rebellion, while seemingly securing the shogunate's position in the immediate aftermath, may have sown the seeds of future unrest, as disgruntled samurai and ambitious daimyo sought new avenues to achieve their ambitions. The enduring legacy of Ito's conspiracy, therefore, is one of both immediate consequence and lasting uncertainty, a testament to the complexity and enduring fascination of the samurai era. The question of what truly transpired and what lasting impact it had on the trajectory of the nation continues to shape historical analysis even today. The intricate dance of power, betrayal, and ambition so vividly displayed in Ito's failed coup continues to resonate through the annals of history, a reminder of the fragility of power and the enduring human capacity for both treachery and resilience. The air in the imperial palace crackled with anticipation. Sunlight streamed through the ornate shoji screens, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the stillness. Emperor Go-Daigo, his face etched with a rare expression of profound gratitude, regarded the humble goldsmith, Taro, who knelt before him, his head bowed low. The weight of the emperor's gaze was immense, yet Taro held his posture, his heart pounding a steady rhythm against his ribs. He had served the emperor faithfully for many years, his skills in crafting exquisite gold objects renowned throughout the court. But this day was different. This day was about recompense. The emperor's voice, resonant and clear, cut through the quiet. Taro, your loyalty and unwavering dedication to the imperial household have been exemplary. Your craftsmanship has graced our court with beauty and elegance, and your discretion has been unwavering. For these invaluable services, I bestow upon you the highest honor within my gift. A hush fell over the room. Attendants, positioned silently at the edges of the chamber, watched with bated breath. Taro remained motionless, his only sign of emotion the slight tremor in his hands. He dared not raise his gaze. The emperor's words continued, each syllable imbued with solemnity. First, I grant you the title of Taishitsu Kasaishi, Imperial Goldsmith, a title passed down through generations, a testament to the enduring quality of your work. A silken scroll, adorned with the imperial seal, was presented to Taro by a court official. The weight of the scroll felt immense, a physical manifestation of the emperor's esteem. Then came the material rewards. A richly decorated chest, crafted from polished camphor wood, was brought forward. Its contents, revealed with a flourish, were breathtaking. Gleaming gold coins, enough to ensure Taro and his family comfort for generations, lay piled within, their surfaces reflecting the light in a dazzling display. Alongside them were bolts of the finest silk, enough for numerous kimonos, each a masterpiece of weaving. Finally, a deed to a substantial rice paddy, located in fertile lands near Kyoto, was presented, securing his family's future sustenance. These gifts were not mere tokens of gratitude. They were a guarantee of prosperity. They were a symbol of the emperor's trust and recognition. The emperor's voice resumed, explaining the deeper significance of his generosity. These rewards, Taro, are not simply payment for your work. They are a recognition of your personal integrity and your commitment to the imperial cause. This has been a challenging era. Your unwavering support has been invaluable. The emperor's voice dropped, hinting at events that remained unspoken, events that had tested the very foundations of the imperial court. It is a well-known historical fact that during the Muromachi period, and indeed throughout much of the samurai era, imperial rewards often took this form: land grants, tax exemptions, titles of nobility, and lavish gifts of gold, silk, and other precious commodities were routinely bestowed upon those who served the emperor loyally. These rewards served a dual purpose. They compensated for service rendered, but also cemented loyalty and maintained the intricate web of power and influence that underpinned the feudal system. The scale of such rewards often reflected the perceived importance of the service rendered and the emperor's personal esteem for the recipient. However, even today, historians continue to debate the motivations behind such imperial generosity. Were these rewards solely based on merit and service rendered, a purely objective assessment of loyalty and contribution to the state? Or did personal relationships, favoritism, and strategic political maneuvering play a significant role in determining who received such generous gifts and titles? Some argue that the emperor's personal preference heavily influenced the allocation of rewards, creating a system where personal connections were often more important than objective merit. Others contend that while personal ties undoubtedly played a part, the strategic importance of maintaining loyalty within the complex hierarchical structure of the court was paramount, making such displays of imperial generosity a calculated method of maintaining political stability. The emperor's gaze returned to Taro, who finally dared to raise his eyes. His face was etched, not with avarice, but with a profound sense of gratitude and humbled awe. His silence spoke volumes, acknowledging the weight of the honor and the responsibility it entailed. He understood that these rewards were not only a recognition of past service, but an expectation of continued loyalty in the years to come. The emperor's gratitude was a powerful force, a potent blend of reward and expectation, a testament to the intricate tapestry of power and loyalty that defined the imperial court. The emperor rose, signaling the end of the audience. Taro, still kneeling, bowed his head deeply, a silent vow of continued service echoing in the stillness of the imperial chamber. The weight of the emperor's gratitude settled upon him, a heavy but glorious burden. The rhythmic clang of the goldsmith's hammer, once a familiar sound echoing through the shadowed workshops of Kyoto, now fell silent. His small, cluttered shop, once a haven of meticulous craft, was empty. He hadn't abandoned his tools. They were carefully packed away, each piece gleaming faintly in the dim light of his new quarters. These quarters, however, were a far cry from the cramped workshop. High ceilings, polished wooden floors, and silken hangings replaced the dust and grime of his previous life. He was now resident within the imperial palace itself, a surprisingly close proximity to the emperor's inner circle. His new role wasn't one of mere craftsmanship. While he still practiced his art, his skills were now primarily employed in creating intricate ornaments and personal gifts for the emperor and the highest members of the court. His work was no longer solely for sale. It was a symbol of status, a testament to the emperor's favor. This promotion was not a result of sheer chance or random appointment. The emperor, a shrewd judge of character, had observed the goldsmith's unwavering integrity throughout the tumultuous events that had shaken the court. The goldsmith, despite his humble beginnings, had shown unwavering loyalty and a quiet strength that had not gone unnoticed. His meticulous nature, once a simple trait that allowed him to create intricate pieces of jewelry, had also made him a perceptive observer, his quiet presence gathering information that proved invaluable during a critical moment. The emperor rewarded quiet strength. The subtle shift in the goldsmith's status was a clear sign of the change in the balance of power within the court. Intrigue still lingered, like a persistent shadow, but the emperor's firm hand, guided by the insights he'd gained through unexpected sources, had curtailed the excesses of some factions. The goldsmith, quietly yet effectively, had contributed to this new stability, his contribution not through open rebellion or political maneuvering, but through insightful observation and a quiet steadfastness that provided crucial information. His very position now served as a constant reminder of the emperor's willingness to elevate those who proved their loyalty and trustworthiness through quiet action. His new workshop, though luxurious, carried a sense of quiet responsibility. The air was heavy with the weight of expectation, the knowledge that his creations were now more than just beautiful objects. They represented the emperor's trust and the delicate equilibrium he sought to maintain. His designs, now imbued with a sense of refined elegance, often contained subtle references to recent events, a silent commentary on the shifting sands of the court. These small, almost imperceptible details, understood only by a select few, demonstrated that his keen observation and acute mind were still valuable assets. The lasting impact of those tumultuous events, though seemingly resolved, left an intriguing mark on Kyoto's culture. A small, almost insignificant detail speaks volumes. The design of the goldsmith's most celebrated creation, a ceremonial clasp for the emperor's robe, subtly incorporated the motif of a falcon, a symbol of keen vision and swift action, the qualities that defined the decisive moment in the court. This subtle inclusion later became a symbol of shrewdness and loyalty, inspiring numerous artworks and influencing design aesthetics for generations. The motif subtly permeated textile patterns, pottery, and even architecture for centuries to come. The falcon, initially just a symbol on a ceremonial clasp, became an emblem in Kyoto's visual landscape. The sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the rooftops of Kyoto. The events of tonight are long past, yet the whispers remain. Remember the goldsmith's careful hands, the falcon's flight, and the emperor's watchful eye. Rest now, and allow yourself to drift peacefully into sleep. The quiet strength of the goldsmith, his loyalty, and the subtle influence of his art serve as a reminder of how even the smallest of actions can create ripples of change, leaving lasting impressions on culture and society. The delicate balance of power remains. The shadow of intrigue never fully fades. Yet within the heart of Kyoto, a new dawn has broken, ushered in by the quiet dignity and unwavering resolve of one man.